Welcome to a Nu Skool drawing tutorial. This week I've got my third installment of the three-part series on drawing a skull for a tattoo design. If you haven't already, go watch the other two videos guiding you through a traditional skull and a neo-traditional skull design. Now, let's get into this tutorial, the Nu Skool skull tattoo design. For all three of these skull videos, I'm going to use the same initial sketch. But Matt, why would you do that? Well, I'm glad you asked. The reason is that even though these three skulls will look dramatically different, the same basic principles will be applied. Now let's erase that canvas and get started. If you watched any of my drawings in the past, then you know that I love to start everything with a circle, which is exactly what I did here. Next comes a vertical line, and because this is going to be 3/4 view, it's shifted slightly back and has an arc to it. From there, let's build a boxy kind of triangle with another vertical line that connects to the front of our circle. Next, I elongate the skull just a little bit and draw in my eye line. This is the point where the center of my eye sockets will rest. I should probably draw a vertical line representing the center of the face as well, but it's pretty easy to get ahead of yourself when you draw something so often. Next comes the eye sockets, represented by circles, and the nasal cavity. The eyes obviously sit along the eye line that I drew earlier. The nasal cavity is nothing more than just a rounded triangle with a little divot at the bottom. And now we make a little smiley face. The vertical line in the back represents the area where the jawbone attaches to the cranium underneath the cheekbone. And then that smile line is where the top teeth meet the bottom teeth. And now we get to start refining. I'm gonna make that brow a little bit more prominent and draw in the cheekbone on the far side. Once that's in there, I draw the near side cheekbone. Front side of the cheekbone, it dips down a little bit. This is where the teeth transition from being in the front to being underneath. Behind and slightly under the cheekbone is where the spine would connect. So we drop the back of the skull down ever so slightly, and then we move on to the Zygomatic Arch, which is just a fancy way of saying the top of the cheekbone. That line will swing upwards and form kind of a C shape opposite the eye socket. Now I'm going to adjust the eye sockets. Instead of being just plain old circles, they need to be rounded squares. Now that I'm happy with where I'm at, I can start refining the drawing a little bit further. I can start adding the details to the back of the jawbone, the separation between the jawbone and the teeth, and of course the teeth themselves. This is about the point that I can change things up based on which style I am currently working in. So this will conclude the generic instruction portion of the video, and we'll move on to the style-specific stuff. For this design, I've moved my sketch to a larger canvas in Procreate on my iPad. I just want to add a little bit more depth and detail. I want this skull to look obnoxious, so I'm going to increase the size of this eye socket and reduce the other one. I'm going to detach the jaw and make it swing forward. I'll also reduce the size of the back of the skull because I think it'll look cool. Now remember, this is just a guide. Just because I'm drawing my Nu Skool skull like this doesn't mean you have to follow along line for line. If you asked me to do the same drawing tomorrow, it would turn out way different. Because for me, this style is more about what seems fun at the moment. And right now, this is what's fun for me. I'm going to refine the sketch twice, and once I'm happy with it, then I'll do my line work. Nu Skool is a vast categorization of artwork. The best way that I can describe it is just exaggerate. Want to give your skull an obnoxiously large eye socket and tiny teeth? Do it. Want to elongate the design and add an S-curve? Do it. There are no rules here. Color bomb it. Add some super thick line work to the foreground and colored line work for the back. If that's what you want to do, get crazy with it. I want my line work to look a little bit wonky,
So I'm using a brush that tapers with less pressure. Once I'm done with my lines, I can move on to color. I like to isolate the area I'm going to be working within with my selection tool, so I don't have to worry about going outside of the lines. As you'll notice later, I do overcolor. Sometimes it makes things easier. Then I can just erase to the outside of the target area. I do this because I can get away with it on the iPad. On skin or paper, I would be a little bit more precise and a little less loosey-goosey. My skull is gray, but I could go fluorescent pink if I wanted to. But I'm going to use other parts of the artwork to turn this into a color bomb. To achieve this, I'm utilizing teal, fuchsia, and kind of a citron color to add that extra pop. I chose these colors because they are about equal distance from one another on the color wheel. Think about how nice your primary colors look next to each other: red, blue, and yellow. Or your secondaries: green, purple, and orange. It's the same concept, just shifted a little bit. To finish this off, I'm just going to add a little bit more color and contrast, and of course, tweak my finer details. Once the coloring is complete, I'm going to slap it on a brick background because Nu Skool has roots in graffiti. And that's about it for this one. I hope that you got something of value from this, and please, if you happen to use my tutorials to draw from, then drop a link in the comments so I can check out your artwork. I'm Matt the Tattoo Robot, thank you for watching, and please, like and subscribe. Remember that rose tutorial that I did a few months ago? Well, I brought that sucker back and incorporated it into a drawing with this skull. If you want to stick around past the outro, you'll see most of my process for that.